All right, so call us and tell us your opinion. But this is what it is. So Zomato has done something interesting, and that triggers a debate. It triggers a debate because paternity leave that's allowed to a dad when a baby is born, is non-existent in India. Dads are not given any leave at all, almost as if they have no role to play in a new baby in a household. This actually then brings us to the question of what message we're sending out through our corporate policy. If there's no paternity leave at all, we're effectively saying that it is always the woman's job or the mom's job to be the primary caregiver. It is always the woman or the mom who has to take a break from work, who has to dial down the intensity of her career, who has to always then split her attention between home and workplace. Why don't we consider the role that dads play, especially when children are very, very small? Why don't we also allow them the leave that they need, thereby splitting that responsibility? And if we split the responsibility, and if we actually have equal homes, can we then have equal workplaces? Because then you will have women who will be able to commit to their to their jobs much more, who won't need to juggle as much as they're needing to juggle right now. Right now, if a woman has to be a mom, she's forced to choose between her career and motherhood. We could make that easier. It's impossible to expect women to be super moms when not putting any responsibility at all on the dads. It's not fair. And there are plenty of dads who would want to spend a month at home with their newborn babies. Why can't we allow them that? So maybe it's not 26 weeks, maybe it's 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 2 weeks even. Why can't the dads in India get leave? Join us in this conversation, apart from yourself at home. Utpal Das is the client director at EMA Partners, looks into people management specifically. K. Ganesh, partner at Growth Story. Karunanand is a lawyer with the Supreme Court. Ranjana Kumari, director for the Center of Social Research. Harish Iyer is a social activist. And Abha Singh is an advocate and activist who will join us through the course of this conversation. I want to start with Ranjana ji. Ranjana ji, good evening. Thank you for joining us. When we don't allow any sort of paternal leave at all to the dads in workplaces, how can we expect women to be able to commit to their jobs?
Well, you are absolutely right. I think when the weeks were increased for timing for maternity leave, that was the time when we raised this issue, and we said that parent mean mother and father, and father needs also leave because he also should participate in joint parenting of the children. And a lot of fathers want to do, as you very rightly observed. Besides that, this is also in a way taking responsibility, because the woman, after having produced the child, goes through a lot of trauma, lot of health issues. So she needs also rest, very small babies, they just don't give any time to the mother. And if the father is around, then can look after the child equally and also engage himself and not put all the responsibility of the mother to blame her later for not really looking after her well. So, and there is a lot of tension. We deal with the issues of these kind of family disputes, and a lot of tension is between the man who comes only in the evening and the mother who has been whole day tiring herself out with the small baby. So I think that one thing is that gets resolved, and also there is joint responsibility. Secondly, it's very important point when we looked at the women managers study, the women did not take the promotion, they did not go because they could not just find time to go back to the work, and also that they were the ones who walked out of the job market. Now, when we have 30% unemployment among the educated young women, then you can already correlate this whole issue that she is not getting time to continue with her career. And what a waste of human resource, waste of national resource to let these women walk out of the job market because they are not able to look after the children. So I feel that this is absolutely a must, and this should be made mandatory. The men have to take that leave, and also that this should become a kind of acceptable situation in our country where men are willing to, and the ones who are willing to are suffering because they are not getting any leave. So I really welcome this move, and also I feel that all the other corporates will start, and soon government is going to legislate this, that there has to be mandatory compulsory leave for the men also when the child is born.
Very well said. Utpal Das is with us. He's the client director of EMA Partners. Utpal Das, good evening. Do you believe that this is a possibility, paternal leave for the dads in our workplaces? Oh, sorry, Utpal Das is not with us. K. Ganesh is with us. Mr. Ganesh, do you believe dads can be given leave as well?
Yeah, absolutely. No, absolutely. I think it's a very positive move, and it sends the right signal. There are some questions that I'll come to, but fundamentally giving the parents leave, not just the mother, but also the father, so that they can take the joint responsibility for the newborn baby, I think is very welcome move. Looking at it from corporate side, it's a great way to get women back into work faster, have women feel less guilt. A lot of times, like was mentioned earlier, they actually sacrifice a promotion or sacrifice a particular position because they think they will not be able to come back. This hopefully will make them able to come back to the job force quicker. So I think it's a very positive signal to be able to do that.
But you did say, of course, that you have some questions, Ganesh. What questions are those?
We have to look at the questions are as follows. One is, see, we have increased the maternity leave to 26 weeks. With paternity leave of 26 weeks, I think we are slightly going overboard in terms of the quantum or the amount of leave. My fear is with 26 weeks gone, corporates, especially if you look at startup or young stage companies or smaller companies, will find it very difficult to carry on with a 6 months of absence.
But does it have to be 6 months? No, 1 second. Ganesh,
one more.
What is the norm right now across at least the businesses that you work with? Is it 2 days? Is it 5 days? Is it 1 week? Is it 1 month? It doesn't have to be 26 weeks. It could be 4 weeks. It could be 3 weeks. What is it right now, though?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. No, right now, very few companies have paternity leave. So it's actually 0. Okay, right? And the signal that Zomato has sent by calling out a 26-week paternity leave is a great signal. I hope other people will follow. It's only the quantum that I'm talking about. As you rightly said, if it's 1 month or 2 months, and if other corporates follow that example, it will be great. Because one of the things that we observe in corporates and startups is we are not having enough women in the workforce and also in managerial senior levels, because they are taking that hit and sacrificing the career for taking taking care of the baby completely by themselves. This will distribute the workload, make them more comfortable to take on the responsibility, not being forced to choose between career and home and do that. So that is welcome, but 26 is a overkill. Maybe 4 weeks, 8 weeks of paternity leave combined with already what's mandatory 26 weeks of maternity leave would be a great combination. Unless there is some specific situations where the child needs more care, you can extend to 26 weeks. But as a standard, 26 I think is a overkill. I hope when it gets followed, or if ever it becomes mandatory law, it is not 26, it's a lower amount. Otherwise, corporates will find it very difficult to deal with it. What actually starts happening is then corporates becomes very wary of both father and mother who are likely to take this leave and become circumspect. So it starts hurting actually the reason for which the policy
I find this very amusing. Now I know corporates who are wary of mothers, we call that discrimination. But if you're going to be wary of mothers and fathers, effectively, who are you going to hire then? Ranjana ji wants to rebut. Ranjana ji, go ahead, and then I'll bring in the rest of the panel.
Yes. I just want to put it this question in perspective. Now look at today's youngsters. I mean, all the childbearing age parents are having 1 or 2 children, and I think that's when you look at 6 months, then you're really not looking at the whole life cycle of the work and the contribution that the labor class or the working class or the middle level management, high level management makes to a company or to a corporate. I mean, can't they just, and this is towards human development, this is towards really raising children who are robust, who are, I mean, look at Sweden, look at so many other countries who are doing much better in terms of economic development from what we are doing in India or our corporates are doing. Those people are doing much better with us than us. Then why are they able to afford that, and why are they able to put their workforce for this kind of a leave? I think we really have to look at it in totality. Children are not born just to mother, they are born to the parent, mother and father both, and equal responsibility should be put on both of them. And they are not just born for just pleasure of the parents. Of course they are, but then they are also going to be the future human resource of a nation. So investment in that should be considered. And whole life cycle, if they have taken 6 months leave, I don't think is some kind of Himalaya.
Let me give the panel an example and the audience an example of what we're talking about. When we decided to have this conversation, so the team at Mirror Now obviously goes through what we have, the archives of footage, and they pull out footage that's relevant to the story. We have no footage of dads in the system. I mean, the team has gone out and shot, they've shot parks and play schools, and they've shot creches, and they've got moms and babies. They have no dads. I think that alone will tell you what is going on. The dads, and I don't want to believe that the dads are not around. I'm sure the dads want to be around. They're just not getting time. I mean, you have to be able to give them time to spend time with their children. Imagine a child who gets to have either mother or father at home for the first 1 year of its life. It will make such a massive difference. Harish Iyer, I also want to bring you in on the fact that Zomato has given leave now, paternity leave or maternity leave, to same-sex couples as well.
Yeah, I think as of now, adoption is, you can't really adopt if you're a gay couple, because your gay relationship is not recognized as of now.
Yes.
But at the same time, if you have people who have adopted and who are married in another country and they're coming over here, it's one is the country's law and one is your company's law. There are companies, there are many corporates. The Lalit Hotel has made provision.
Yes.
Godrej has made provision
Yes.
to also recognize same-sex couples. So they have made their own laws to ensure that there are same-sex couples who get the same kind of benefits. And what really this does is, what really Zomato has done is that it has brought to the fore the fact that that bringing up a child is beyond gender.
Yes.
So it is not just male and female, all genders can be parents, and motherhood, fatherhood, whatever,
And
parenthood is
more
beyond
importantly,
gender.
that all genders are parents, and hence all genders deserve the benefits
Absolutely.
of that they need in order to be good parents, in order to give time to their children.
And you know what, Faye? I mean, men usually pride themselves with patriarchy. This will be a humbling experience for men as well, to get in touch with their own skills, because we often look at men as people who, I mean, the often stereotypes. I don't subscribe to that view, but the stereotype is that men don't have emotions, and men are people who, often you'd find all these activists who would be fighting with you, saying that, hey, you know what, men are going out and working, and you know what, women are just going to sit at home and bear babies. Over here, men are going to be equal participants in the rearing, in the bringing up of the child. And I think that's a very positive move.
Yes, so a couple of questions that people are asking, and I would like the panel to answer them. One of the questions that's come in is Anand Singh, who says, do dads get paternity leave in foreign countries? Yes, so in fact, my team has made a list of 43 countries that give at least 3 months off to fathers when babies are born. We unfortunately are in the company of those countries that give no leave at all to dads. Harsh Mudgal, is the idea behind paternity leave to stop discrimination between male and female employees? Harsh, I would suppose one of the answers, yes, but I think largely it will also allow dads to spend more time with their children. Karuna Nandi joins us right now. She's a lawyer with the Supreme Court. Ms. Nandi, thank you for joining us. Do you believe the paternity leave should be made available in India right now? Because right now we're at zero. We have no leave at all.
You know, not only do I think it should be introduced, I think it's a huge problem that we don't have it. And the reason I say it is this, is because maternity leave has been introduced in a sort of very reasonable and I also think, you know, generous enough way, which is that you get 6 months now. There are companies that are reluctant to hire women and therefore discriminating against women, right? Now, we don't have an anti-discrimination law at the moment. We don't have a law that says, we have the Constitution of India, we have Article 14, but we don't have a sort of more granular law saying that you cannot discriminate on the basis of gender when you are hiring someone. And I actually think what needs to happen is that so-called Vishakha committees, the anti-sexual harassment committees, should be expanded to become equality committees so that within the organization we have a quick effective mechanism for an employment remedy because people are, it's difficult to go to court, right? Now, if you introduce paternity leave, not only I think is it the right of the child to be parented by the parents that you know, he or she has, but I also think that in gendering the roles of the parents in this, in sort of gendering it further, the roles of the parents by policy, what you're doing is you're making sure that moms get a particular track and fathers get a different track, right? And it means that mothers don't have the kind of support that they need. It means that company hiring policies, you know, when companies are looking at what I can afford, what I can't afford, you know, they are oriented in particular ways. It means that there's more discrimination against women. It means that women are more oriented towards doing the double shift at home and at work because, of course, the first 6 months are very important in a child's life. And if he only knows his mother or her mother during that time, then, you know, the father has just not that much of a connection. And then when the father sort of does maybe step in for some time, then there isn't that much of a role that he can play. So I think just across the board, it is absolutely vital. But you know, Faye, when you speak of company doing it in a mandatory way, I think that there has to be a proper discussion about it and a certain amount of nuance. We'd have to look at perhaps, you know, dividing companies up by tiers. You know, small companies, you know, say you have a private limited with 10 people. It's a startup. Would they be able to give this kind of paternity leave and maternity leave to all of their employees? Secondly,
Karuna Nandi, I think we could start. Ms. Nandi, I think maybe we could start with a couple of weeks, a month, maybe less than that. Nobody says, I mean, we can't, I agree, we can't go from 0 to 26. That would be a shock to all systems. Yeah, but maybe 2 weeks. Right now, we're not even able to give dads 2 weeks. They have to take it out of their paid leave or they have to take it out of their vacation time, but they can't get paternal leave. And that's actually really unfortunate because and I invite on the phone line anybody who is a dad who wanted to spend time but didn't get to spend time. Call us and tell us what you felt the disadvantages of the lack of paternity leave was so that we can make the rest of the audience understand what those challenges are for a new father. And we also have with us right now Utpal Das. Utpal Das, could you tell us what your opinion is as far as paternity leave is concerned and what your clients feel about it?
Well, see, in my view, there are three broad things that need to be discussed here as far as the paternity leave is concerned. One is the introduction of the policy itself in India. It is unprecedented. Second is the division of responsibility for the father and the mother. And the third is the job market in itself. Now, as far as the first point is concerned, now considering the fact that 90 million children under the age of 1, which is, by the way, 2/3 of the world's children under the age of 1, live in countries which do not have a paternity leave policy at all. And while the Nordic countries have been exemplary in the introduction and execution of the policy, even developed economies or the so-called progressive countries have lagged behind in the introduction of paternity leave. Even maternity leave is not paid in many countries, right? So from a policy introduction perspective, it is, I think, a welcome step that has been done by Zomato. How much can it be extended to the entire corporate sector or even the government sector is, needs to be seen. Second is the division of responsibility. Now, I do not have to drive home the truth or the fact that biologically speaking or physiologically speaking, mothers need more time with the babies and vice versa. Fathers might not need, biologically speaking, that much time. Emotionally speaking, Faye, I think both the parents should give enough or equal time to the newly born or to the child.
No, but sir,
So,
presuming
and then,
that's breastfeeding, and it's not always possible.
I'm sorry.
All right, let's actually clarify that. One
See,
second. Ranjana Kumari, do you want to clarify the time that a woman needs to spend with a newborn and the time that a man can spend with the newborn, and whether biology comes in the way of that?
Well, biology, to the extent that feeding is, of course, one of the compulsions that women have to really be around at time when the child is hungry, and especially when infant. But when other than that, like doing any other, the people have talked about, there are many researches, we have now explored the possibility of, keeping the child closer to the body of the father, and the child gets the same level of comfort. If fathers know how to give that comfort, child is absolutely does not have any kind of problem in being with the father or the mother. So I don't see this argument going very far that mother needs to be closer to the child, mother needs to be doing all kinds of things for the child. It can be anybody, and most of the affluent family mothers are not doing it because they have also household help who's doing all that work. So that's not really in the same way anymore. So let's not, this is a very traditional and psychological explanation. It has been challenged, and there are many researches which are now talking about father doing equally same amount of conveying of the physical contact and touch to the baby as the mother is doing.
Also, Ranjana ji, I want to point out that until last year, India had a policy of 3 months maternity leave, which means that mothers were expected to leave a 3-month-old at home and join work. In which case, she would hand over that baby to somebody else. Somebody else could just as well be the baby's father and not a grandparent or a maid or a daycare person, as the case could be. So it's as simple as that. If you gave fathers leave as well, the mothers could perhaps go back to work earlier and leave the baby with the father. That way, both careers could thrive and you wouldn't have to choose one over the other. But Abha Singh, you'll want to answer this next question that comes from one of our viewers. Karnal is on the phone line from Chandigarh. Karnal, go ahead.
Hello. I think it is not fair to equate both the father and the mother as far as looking after the child is concerned. Yes, the father needs a couple of weeks when the mother needs medical attention to come out of the pains of delivery. Otherwise, it is the mother who has to look after the child. The question is not the man or the woman. The question is what is good for the child. It is only the mother who can look after the child for 3 to 4 months and not the father.
But new research has...
No, so let me ask you one more question, Mr. Ben. What happens after, let's just assume that fathers also get leave. So the mother takes the first 3 months off. The child is now 3 months old. She goes back to work. The father takes the next 3 months off and he looks after the child. And in this case, let's say for 6 months and then the next 3 months. So now the child is 9 months old. Why can't that happen?
Well, it can happen, but if the couple is wise enough, which in our social setting, I think the responsibility is that with the mother. You can't be sure what the father will be doing. He may be celebrating a lot in a bar enjoying with his friends that the child
That's
is
really
born.
offensive
But
to
the mother
dads.
is the one who has to look after the child.
No, but you know, let me just stop you there, Mr. Ben. And I'll tell you
No,
from
no.
personal
No, I can
experience.
say-
Back in the 80s, I grew up with a dad who did everything. He changed diapers, he cooked food, he gave us baths, he did our homework with us. He did everything. He would do the dishes while my mother was busy with the children. So I think that's unfair to dads. That idea that if you leave a dad with a child, he would perhaps leave the baby and go get a drink is really offensive. I take offense on behalf of dads.
It's
I think
very
that's really
offensive.
unfair.
It's very
Absolutely.
offensive.
But I want Abha Singh to
Yes.
answer a couple of things
Very
that were said
offensive.
here, Abhaji.
Very true, Faye.
Yes, go ahead.
Very true.
Too much of a generalization.
Yeah. You know, number one, I would like to say that the very concept of paternity leave, it breaks the patriarchal mindset. It attacks the patriarchal mindset, which the learned person was speaking before me. Because when you are saying that, that means it's real equality, that a man is also supposed to look after children. Also, women who suffer in their careers because they have to go on long breaks, once a paternity leave is given, they can divide the burden and the woman's career would not be at a loss. She can go back, join when she is required. A lot of women have to quit their jobs because there's nobody else. Also, the government has been a trailblazer. Initially, it was the government of India which gave 15 days paternity leave to men. But now, recently, the bill which has come, it says paternity leave up to 6 months would be given to single fathers or divorced men, because the men were saying you are giving women so much maternity leave, why not single fathers? So the government of India has come forward and has allowed for 730 days for single fathers, divorced fathers. So I think that is a very big jump, and that is what is now weighing on the corporates, who are now making provisions for 30 days, 12 weeks. So also there is a very important fact which needs to be remembered, that this is something which has to come voluntary from the corporate sector, but it has not come. Only when Government of India came with the 2% CSR in the companies law was the time when the corporates started giving that money to the NGOs. So this also the government needs to bring in some legislation, because we just cannot be happy with 12 weeks or 30 days. It has to be a substantial amount of paternity leave, which needs to be given, because now it is a secular family. We don't have joint households where the mother-in-law or the mother or the aunts came to look after the baby. Now it is a single setup.
Well, we have a couple of more people on the phone line. Ramesh Swaminathan from Hyderabad. Ramesh, good evening. Go ahead.
Hello, is Ramesh Swaminathan?
Yes.
Hello, is Ramesh Swaminathan from Hyderabad. Hello, can I
Yes,
go
we
ahead?
can hear you. Go ahead, Ramesh.
I'm a retired person. I'm 65 years old.
Yes.
I'm 65-year-old. I'm Ramesh Swaminathan, calling from Hyderabad. Okay, I'm a retired person. Okay, when I'm in my young days, I never had this opportunity. Really, I feel I envy the present generation because they are getting this facility. Because I miss my children, but to compensate for that, I'm playing with my grandchildren. Okay, at least I got it what I lost. Okay, I'm happy that at least it should be made as a law, and paternity leave should be given to everybody.
Very well said, Mr. Swaminathan. Thank you for calling us. Mr. Subramaniam on the phone line from Mumbai. Go ahead.
Madam, I am Subramaniam from Bombay. I want to tell the panelists one thing. One of the possibilities is after the delivery of the baby, sometimes the mother expires because of some complications in the health. In such cases, the paternity leave helps a lot. Otherwise, the baby which is newborn left to lurch. So I am in favor of this paternity leave, and not only that, not all the fathers are more responsible in taking care of the kids when they are newborn, especially the mother is recuperating from after her delivery and all. It will definitely help a lot. That is my viewpoint.
Yes, Mr. Subramaniam, that is an interesting viewpoint. I just want to point out, if we say that, you know, paternity leave will only be made available if the mother is no longer in the picture for whatever reason, that actually then it's the same thing. It basically says that if the mother is around, it has to be her.
Yeah.
It cannot be the dad. There's only an exception to be made if the mother's lost for whatever reason and is not physically available. That puts the onus on the women again. That takes away that pride from the men one more time. But here's a question I want to ask the panel, and it's across the board from our viewers. They're saying things like a father alone cannot take care of an infant. You know, a few weeks of paternity leave will actually just allow the dad some like easy time. So this is not easy time. We're not talking about easy time. Apurva Roy says a father's presence is not necessary for childbirth and paternity leave should be avoided. Anybody who wants to tackle that question?
I think.
Yeah, oh, go ahead.
I think as a man, I take a lot of offense to that. I think.
No, so I don't.
No, one second. Harish Iyer first, yes.
Yeah. I think as a man, I take a lot of offense to that. It is, bringing up a child is a person's responsibility, and the person could be anybody. Also, this also shifts the blame to the woman, because in the end, no one, I have not heard so many people say that this child has not been fathered well. It's always said that this child has not been mothered well.
Yes.
Because it's the mother's responsibility, that's what people perceive. So it actually nips patriarchy in the bud. And also, not just this, Faye, I think there are a lot of other things that also need to come. If you go to any loo, I've gone to all the gents' loos in practically all the airports. The nappy changing device, the nappy changing table is only there in the female this thing. It's not there in the male this thing. So I think a lot of things need to change, not just the leave part, even a lot of other things, you know, the whole mindset of a whole organization needs to change. In sense, why, if a child is not keeping well, why should the mother only go home? The father should also be willing to go home and look after the child. I think, of course, we need change in that direction, but I think this is a welcome step, the first step.
Yes, and also to the question of whether or not the paternity leave will be paid or not paid. I think the whole argument of paternity leave is that it will be paid. It will be either a month or 2 months or 3 months of paid leave that a new father can use to spend with his child. But Utpal Das had a point to make. Go ahead, Mr. Das.
Yeah. Yeah, no, so, you know, I was making the point about the division of responsibility, but that I think has been taken care of from an economy perspective, from a job market perspective. I mean, you know, it is a proven fact that you know, there has been statistical discrimination against hiring women of childbearing years. That's a fact. Also, there is data to prove that the pay gaps are increasing for women who have taken maternity leave and who have resumed work. So, if the paternity leave is actually introduced and implemented in a formal manner, this thing of discrimination against hiring women of childbearing years and discriminating them against you know, the pay gap, that can be arrested. So, you know, from that perspective, I think, you know, like you asked, Faye, what are our clients saying? Our clients are saying that
from a corporate
look, I mean, you know, it is too early to say whether this will be a success, but it is, like I said in the beginning, a very, very welcome step taken by Zomato.
Ganesh, Ganesh, go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think from a corporate perspective, there are two aspects, and there is a human aspect which is separate. From a corporate perspective, in 6 months, what is likely to happen, because 6 months is a long period, they have to find somebody else to do the job. Now, corporates have to ensure that when the person, whether it's father or the mother, applies to both, when they come back to work, they are not at a disadvantage. Now, at the lower level, entry-level job, it's completely replaceable. Yeah. But if you take middle management, senior management, or slightly senior jobs, when somebody is away for 6 months, the company cannot work without that role being filled in. If it brings an expert there, when that person comes back, how do you ensure, be it a father or the mother, they are not at a disadvantage? Because then what will happen is the impact of it will be lessened, because people will rush to come back, lest they don't get back into the same level.
So here's my question, Mr. Ganesh, here's my question. How are corporates doing it right now with women? Yeah. So women take 6 months off when they have babies, and then they come back to the workplace.
I want to give an example here.
Okay, all right. Ranjana ji, go ahead.
Faye, I want to give an example. I want to give an example. Look at the whole European scene. You know, look at the European scene. The all working couples and especially women decided not to have children. As a result, the population pyramid has gone upside down. That means the aging population has become, now that's another kind of problem where people have to invest now in taking care of the elderly because there are no children, there are very few young people, and minus growth of the population started. No, wait, no, it is the point. It is a point because then women, why should only women bear the burden of having children and raising them and being blamed for it, as Harish said in your program, and being,
so actually, so my reaction to this is this, Ganesh, Mr. Ganesh, answer the question if you would. You said that right now, if we introduce paternal leave and they go away for 6 months, when they come back, their job won't be waiting for them because the company has to replace them with someone else, and then their careers will suffer. Is that effectively what's happening to women right now? And if it's happening to women already, why is that okay?
No, sorry.
That's not happening to some extent.
No, I'm not. I'm sorry.
It's
I'm
not okay,
not saying
but
that.
it is happening.
Let me clarify. I'm not saying that. All that I'm saying is it's important for the company to ensure that when they come back, they get at the same level. They are not at a disadvantage by planning for this well in advance. 6 months is a known period. I am only saying that that needs to be factored and has to be implemented as a part of the plan, reintroduction of them. It's extremely important. I'm only saying that. I'm not saying therefore don't give 6 months. Separately, 6 months is large. That is one element. Let me just talk about the human element. See, I think it was mentioned, the fact that this gives the ability for the father to take time off and bond with the child is extremely important, and just on that basis it's a highly welcome move. Right? That you are able to do that. I mean, personal experience, I was on a forced parental leave because I did not have a job when my son's second child was born. The amount of bonding I could get because I was with the child during time was phenomenal. So that, I think, is of immense value to be able to have. Just for that, this is worth having.
Well, very well said. Santosh Roy on our portal says, paternity leave will always have a fear attached to it of jeopardizing one's career. Well, Santosh, welcome to our world. This is what our world is like. Women are terrified of having to take maternity leave because the career is just never there when they come back. Karuna Nandi, you were talking about specific instances where this happens.
You know, I was talking about instances from multinational companies, actually, very senior women who waited until they had their children and they come back and their job is either refashioned or effectively being given to someone else, often a man. And the litigation around this is difficult because we don't have that equality legislation, which we absolutely need for a large variety of reasons, right? Now, that's on one side. But there are a couple of points I wanted to make. One is that while I think paternity leave is extremely important, I also think that the burden on women is not just of motherhood. There is a care burden that encompasses old parents, whether it is their own whether it is the parents-in-law more usually, but also their own parents. We have a Bombay High Court judgment recently, but there's also earlier judgments, I think also of the Bombay High Court, that say that a woman has a duty to look after her own parents as well. So now you've got this woman who has the caregiving responsibility for everybody, whether it is a disabled member of the family who of course need care, whether it is old parents, whether it is children. And so I do think that, those of us with children get privileged over people who don't have children. I don't think that's fair. I do think that we can, as a society, invest in the care of our family members. And I do think that a family cess can fund organizations that can't afford to give this kind of family leave. I would prefer to call it family leave and make it available across the board, and perhaps make a certain amount compulsory for fathers. I don't know, maybe. But I think I'd have to think that one through. One last point I would like to make is that, You know, I think there's a way in which we need leaders, whether they are corporate leaders, whether they are leaders in any organization, whether they are heads of shops, you know, and other establishments, right? Because we must remember that, for example, the Anti-Sexual Harassment Act applies to all establishments with employees above 10, employees being very loosely defined. That there should be a certain caregiving responsibility. And I like the way Harish thinks about this, Harish Iyer thinks about this, which is that when you are looking at parenting and when you are looking at everybody sort of having a fair shot at parenthood and having a fair shot at caring and having a fair shot at work, dividing it up arbitrarily on the basis of the kind of sexual organs that you were born with is blatantly ridiculous, you know. And so making family leave, I think, compulsory and funding it through a family cess is an easy thing to do. In November 18th of 2018, the Labour Ministry announced that they were going to fund part of the maternity leave through a cess, and this can be expanded, I think, quite easily.
Well, we have a couple of people on the phone line. I want to be able to bring them all in, but I'll request all of them to keep their, keep their comments brief. Pranay from Kolkata. Pranay, good evening. Go ahead.
Good evening, ma'am, and everyone on the panel. I think that this issue needs a more nuanced examination. For far too long, it has been seen that women alone take care of the child and they are eligible for maternity leave. But why this discrepancy? This is the age of 21st century where everyone, including both the sexes, have both equal responsibility to the child. It is through the responsibility of both men and women that a child has the right tradition, can be inculcated with the right values and others. Now,
absolutely. All right, let me just move on. Deepa on the phone line from Mumbai. Deepa, go ahead.
Faye, I want to, well appreciate the fact that paternity leave should be there. I want to add one thing, that we need to also look at the, the statistics on the postpartum depression that women go through. And it is very, very nice to have the spouse there. It is, childbirth is a unique and, very, very important milestone and joy which they should be able to share with each other. And for that, if they have a leave, mandatorily, they can be there. Because I've seen couples have lifetime grudges where one man could get a leave and one woman's husband couldn't get it and couldn't share the joy, and she held it against the guy for a lifetime. I mean, these are important, beautiful, moments that they should both be able to share with each other without anything binding them down. So why not? Not just as a responsibility, but as something that brings them so much joy. The man.
Yes, we should also remember that in urban India, a new baby is an expensive prospect. So to ask someone to take unpaid leave and not pay them for the time off is really unfair, because expenses have suddenly overnight shot through the roof. So there is also this fear of losing your job or losing pay or taking too much leave or ticking off your boss, which shouldn't exist for new dads. They should be able to access time if they need it. Amrish on the phone line from Delhi. Amrish, go ahead.
Hi, I have 2 points to make. Number one is we have been talking about that it's the duty of both father and mother to take care of child. I agree to that. But woman's body is made in such a way that she is more suitable to take care of the child. And child, for the sake of child, it's better to have more close attachment with the mother.
Amrish, until last year, India had only 3 months of maternity leave. Women were expected to go back to work after 3 months when their children were 3 months old. What happens to the babies then?
No, that's okay. I agree. I'm not saying that male should not be granted the leave. I am in favor that both of them should be granted leave. But male can act as a supportive, in a supportive role to his wife. But a child is such a small, delicate thing that we cannot live just on a male who is, more robust and more outgoing in his behavior. Okay. That way. Otherwise,
so if you could actually, we could count them right now. There was masculinity, a forced idea of the fact that men are rough.
So everyone goes through a very steep learning curve.
How can you blame fathers for being masculine and
so
will be able to?
learns on the
Will
job,
the father be not looking after the child because he has masculinity?
No, I disagree that.
I think that
because
every woman is not so paternal and every man is not so
take care of the
masculine.
child.
Yes.
You know, so
No, actually, yeah. So here are the prejudices,
personal
right?
experience,
Woman's body, man's body, man will be masculine. Men are unable to do anything delicate. They are unable to care for anything that's delicate. That all women are tender and gentle and maternal. None of those things are true. But I also want to bring in Abha Singh here. Abhaji, you're a tough woman yourself, and just to tie in what Karuna Nandi said about family leave, India is in fact the only country in the world where research shows that women not only drop out of their careers when babies are born, they also drop out of their careers when their child is answering board exams. Apparently that's the thing in India that becomes a woman's responsibility. So you have this circle that happens where nobody wants to hire women of childbearing age because they'll take maternity leave. When they do get hired, they're paid less. And so when the choice comes of whether we want to pay for a caregiver or a daycare or someone to look after the child, it's too expensive. So the choice is, why don't you give up your job and stay at home? You're not making that much money anyway. So it's a self-fulfilling prophecy that goes round in circles. And at some point, we have to be able to break that. Is paternity leave the answer?
Very true. I personally know so many women in the private sector that when they went for babies, they resigned because that is what they were told by their companies, that if you're going on maternity leave, you better quit. So definitely now when we talk of paternity leave, we are breaking the patriarchal mindset. We are making it sure that men are equally responsible in bringing up children. When the Hindu Marriage Act says that the child is with the mother till the year of 5, and once the child is 5, the father becomes the natural guardian. If these laws say that father is the natural guardian, why should he also not bear the responsibility of rearing the child? That is my one question. But definitely, as you said, for 10th standard, a lot of mothers take leave. The government is very progressive. We were in the government for 20 years, and there is a provision for leave up to 2 years of paid leave. Apart from the maternity leave, you have 2 years of paid leave, which you can avail till the time your child turns 18. So the government realizes that it needs to give, so why not the private sector? Why do the corporates only think of profit and they don't think of gender justice and gender diversity? Faye, it's a beautiful debate which you are doing now, and I hope you take it further to so that you ensure that the corporate sector also feels ashamed. And nonetheless, Zomato has done a very good beginning by giving 30 days of paternity leave. But when I said in the government we had maternity leave plus 2 years of leave till the time your child turned 18, you could have taken it any time with full pay, then I feel everybody should get it. Why should it be discriminatory that women in the government services, women in the IS get it, but not in the private sector?
Zomato has given 26 weeks of paternity leave. That's 6 months to a dad who wants to spend time with their newborn child. Not a month, but fair enough. I want to take this back to Ganesh. Ganesh, because you said you were a dad, there's a question that's also come up about PTA meetings. It's very rare to see a father, a dad at a PTA meeting, because PTA meetings as a conspiracy against working parents happen at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It's impossible. You can't finish it and go to work, or you have to take the day off. Why is it? Is it because dads don't want to take the day off, or bosses frown at dads who want to take the day off for a PTA meeting? Why is it always the moms who show up to PTA meetings?
Yeah, I mean, personally, I have attended almost all the PTA meetings, but the question is correct. If I go to a PTA meeting, you will see a lot more of moms than moms and dads. Only dads are pretty rare. So that's the way it has been. Could be that many of the moms are not working, so therefore they are able to come. But the expectation is that I think it's changing. I have seen now increasingly in our offices fathers saying that I have to go and attend PTA meeting. I'll go attend and come back. I've seen that. I think it is changing. But some of these questions are and the observations are actually true. Unfortunately, that's the way it is. Whether it is because physiology or the biology or the kind of this, I mean, we are expecting the mothers to be actually super moms. And somebody said about caregiving. I mean, the lady in the house is taking a lot more burden today, be it the child, be it the in-laws,
Yes.
be it the elders. That's what it is today. And I think this particular thing of corporates giving paternity leave and government mandating paternity leave, whatever may be the duration, not 26, but whatever is the right duration, will actually help us in trying to bring it to slightly more balance. It is very unbalanced today.
Absolutely. We have to
Huge
leave it
pressure
here,
on the
unfortunately, because
women of
we've
the
run out
house
of time.
to
I want to
take
thank my panelists for
maximum
giving us your time and being so generous this evening. In conclusion, and one of our viewers has written to us saying, how would this stop or help us break the patriarchy? It's very simple. Let me put it to you this way. Women get, as of now, a mandated 6 months time off, paid time off when they have babies. And that's important, because babies cannot survive on their own and they need the attention of their parents. Men get nothing at all, not one day, not one day. The men need time as well to care for a newborn, because everyone knows it takes a village. It is not a one-person job. Secondly, women are discriminated against in most workplaces, even if they won't say it out loud. They don't want to hire someone who's just gotten married out of fear that she will get pregnant and take 6 months off. As a result, even women who are hired are paid less. They're treated perhaps as employees who are not going to take themselves very seriously. When they do have babies, they're treated as employees who will not take their job seriously, because they'll constantly be distracted by the baby at home. If we introduce the idea of compulsory paternity leave, a month, 3 weeks, maybe 5 weeks for dads, it won't be so uneven anymore. Even young men who are just married might take time off because they're having babies. It will allow them to spend more time at home and bond with their children better. It will allow them to lend a hand to a new mother and build a tighter unit at home. It will allow women who are ambitious and career-driven to come back sooner after they have babies, to focus more on their careers and perhaps achieve more. It will achieve a more equal home and thereby a more equal workplace. We want the women of our country to go out and work. And research has shown that if women in our country work, our GDP will shoot through the roof. Corporates will do better. And when they do better, they should be able to afford paid leave for dads. And as suggested by Karuna Nandi on our panel, they should be able to afford paid leave for families. Gender notwithstanding, if you need to care for someone at home, an elderly parent, a disabled person, a child who's answering board exams, or a newborn baby, you should be able to access leave and time without losing out on your career or on your pay. Here's to a perfect world. Thanks for watching. Good night.